The year was 1971 when Melvin Van Peebles' Sweet Sweetback's badass song kicked off the rise of a new money-making market for Hollywood, blaxploitation. Now, Spike never got caught up in the hype, and as a matter of fact, never watched most of the famous films from the genre until he was already a recognized filmmaker. Anyway, by 1976, 3 years before he graduated from Morehouse College, Hollywood had ceased making blaxploitation films. Now, the few that were being made featured a few blacks. However, there were mostly white faces behind the cameras writing, directing, and producing the films. Now, this was a major concern for Spike, who wanted to change that. Now, rumor has it that he made a couple of films while at Morehouse, including Last Hustle in Brooklyn and Black College, The Talented Tenth. Now, he later felt both were subpar and was pleased that no copies were in circulation. Some good did come from these endeavors, however. It led him to understand the need to get better at his craft. If he wanted to get better, however, he knew he'd have to venture out. So in his senior year, he applied to film school at New York University and was accepted. The New York University Institute of Film and Television was and is one of the most prestigious film schools in the nation, but he soon felt that NYU in its own way was just as conservative as Morehouse. As one of only a handful of blacks at the school, he felt pressure to conform, especially after he made his first student film in 1980, a film not so well received by his professors. Titled The Answer, it was about a black screenwriter hired to direct a $50 million remake of the 1915 silent film classic D.W. Griffith's Birth of a Nation. He included parts of the original film in his project. Well, his professors disapproved of his interpretation, considering it a denigration of Griffith, regarded by many as the father of American cinema. Now, while they did not charge him with outright disrespect, they criticized the film for being overambitious. First off, first-year student films are only meant to be 10 minutes long, and to remake Birth of a Nation in 10 minutes was quite a heavy burden. Secondly, they criticized him for not having yet mastered film grammar or the techniques of filmmaking. Well, Spike, convinced then and now, felt that the problem was less his lack of technique, but more his criticism of Griffith. Fortunately for both NYU and Spike, he was invited to continue in the program, enjoying a much smoother experience during his second year. He was awarded a teaching assistantship, and in exchange for working in the school's equipment room, he received full tuition. As a result, he used tuition money given to him by his grandmother for that year to produce his films. In 1983, Spike Lee received his master's degree from the New York University Tisch School of the Arts after submitting his 1-hour-long film, Joe's Bed-Stuy Barbershop, We Cut Heads, as his master's thesis. He was soon signed by both the International Creative Management and William Morris agencies. Both firms were looking for a young black director, given the recent evidence of a slow resurgence of films about the black experience, and Spike fit the bill. However, no job offers were coming through the agency, so to support himself, he found work cleaning and shipping film for First Run Features, a movie distribution house. Definitely not the ascension into stardom he was hoping for, but the $200 weekly salary at least allowed him to move out of his father's house. He found a studio apartment with a kitchen on Myrtle Avenue, just around the corner from the family home. But it could be a world away if he wanted. There in his own place, he filled notebook upon notebook with film ideas, one of which was The Messenger, a film about a family in Brooklyn with the protagonist being a bike messenger. This was the film he was keen on making next. Being fresh out of film school, he had no idea of the harsh realities of raising money to make films. His first dose of reality was learning that funding sources would not give him money outright. They would only give it to a not-for-profit tax-exempt organization. So he went to Warrington Hutland, founder of the Black Filmmaker Foundation, which had distributed two of his student films, and got Hudlin to agree that his foundation would serve as the agent for the grants. Now, in escrow was a $20,000 grant from the American Film Institute, which was not payable until actual production began, a $10,000 grant from the Jerome Foundation, money borrowed from his grandmother, and the promise to raise the remainder of the necessary financial backing from a friend of the family. Now, anxious to get started, Spike refused to wait for all or even most of the money to be in pocket, and began the pre-production phase of The Messenger in the summer of 1984. So he formed his own production company, 40 Acres and a Mule Filmworks, where he was president and Monty Ross, his friend in Atlanta, was vice president. Now, from his experience as a Hollywood intern, he decided he wanted to control all aspects of his films. He hired the crew, scouted locations, cast the actors, you name it. Short of funds to pay union actor fees, he worked out a deal, or so he thought, with the Screen Actors Guild by seeking a waiver of their usual rules based on the argument that his film was not commercial. Now, such waivers are often granted for low-budget independent films, leading him to believe he is qualified. In the end, the promised money did not come through, leading to sleepless nights worrying about what to do. His stomach churned so much that he couldn't eat, which led to lost weight. He couldn't pay his bills, and to top it all off, when the film had been in pre-production for 8 weeks, the Screen Actors Guild refused to allow the waiver, saying that his film was too commercial. Finding himself in a dire situation, given that he'd already spent $40,000 paying a crew and non-union actors, and suddenly having just 4 days to recast the film with union actors, Spike was forced to give up the project. It was the most painful experience of his professional life. He lost the $20,000 his grandmother had invested, plus the people who turned down other work to be a part of his project, which was now a bust, were furious. Defeated for the moment, he sat in a bathtub filled with water and cried. A man who didn't cry at his mother's funeral. This made him weep. Now, after crying, after accepting defeat, he felt better and soon enough regained his fighting spirit. The Messenger fiasco, he decided, was a good learning experience. Next time around, just write a script with only a few characters, use inexpensive neighborhood locations, and hold a low budget. Most important, pre-production begins when the money is in the bank. With this in mind, he made a promise to himself. The following summer, he would be ready to create his first full feature film.